A day in London, 1348. The Black Death, surviving the Great Plague. You wake on a morning in September 1348 in London, and something is fundamentally wrong with the world. The city around you is transforming before your eyes into something unrecognizable. A plague has arrived. Not the predictable plague of hunger or cold or common disease. This is something different. This is death on a scale that no one has ever witnessed. You have one day to understand why, in the coming months, half the population of this city will be dead. The first thing you notice is the smell. It is worse than anything you have encountered. Worse than the open sewers of the streets. Worse than the slaughterhouses. This is the smell of death itself. The sweet, rotten smell of human bodies decomposing. It clings to the air. It clings to your clothes. You cannot escape it no matter where you go. You step outside into the gray morning. The streets are quieter than usual. Not the productive quiet of early morning, but the eerie quiet of a city that is slowly dying. Some shops are closed. Their owners, perhaps, are already sick. Perhaps they are already dead. Perhaps they have fled the city, hoping to escape what is coming. The plague arrived in England just months ago. It came on merchant ships from the continent, the great trading ships that brought silks and spices and goods from distant lands. It also brought something else, something invisible, something that would destroy everything. What you are witnessing is the Black Death, the Bubonic plague. It is caused by a bacterium carried by fleas that live on rats. But no one knows this. No one understands how the plague spreads. The physicians offer theories. Bad air, they say, miasma, corrupted air that causes disease, or planetary alignment, or divine punishment, or the movement of stars. All of these theories are wrong, but they are all that people have. The actual mechanism of transmission is invisible. A flea bites a rat. The flea becomes infected. The flea bites a person. The bacterium enters the bloodstream. Within days, the symptoms appear. Fever, chills. The lymph nodes become swollen, grotesquely swollen. These swellings, called buboes, are the hallmark of the disease. They are black. They are the size of apples or eggs. They leak pus and blood. But the symptoms are just the beginning. The disease progresses. Fingers blacken as tissue dies. The smell of decay becomes noticeable even while the person is still alive. Death usually comes within days, sometimes a week. The mortality rate is nearly 100%. If you catch the bubonic plague in 1348, you are almost certainly dead. You see a house with a red cross painted on the door. This is a plague house. Inside, someone is dying, or multiple someones. You do not enter. No one enters plague houses anymore. The sick are left to die alone. A woman passes you in the street. She's stumbling. Her gait is unsteady. She's obviously ill. The people around her give her wide berth. No one helps her. No one comes near her. There is an understanding that proximity to the sick means death. So the sick are abandoned. They die alone in the streets or in their homes. Their bodies are left where they fall. The second form of the plague is even more terrifying, the pneumonic form. In this variant, the bacteria infect the lungs. The victim coughs. Droplets of infected sputum spray into the air. Anyone breathing that air might be infected. The contagion is immediate and often fatal within days. This form of the plague kills even faster than the bubonic form. You pass a cemetery. It is overflowing. Graves are being dug constantly. But even the gravediggers are dying. Soon there will not be enough living people to bury the dead. Mass graves will have to suffice. Bodies will be stacked on top of bodies. There will not be time for proper burial. There will not be time for ceremony. The dead will simply be dumped into pits. The city's infrastructure is beginning to break down. The sewers are not being maintained. The streets are not being cleaned. The bodies are piling up faster than they can be removed. The smell becomes worse each day. The air itself seems poisoned. People are correct that the air is corrupted, though not in the way they imagine. It is corrupted by the stench of mass death. You see children playing in the street, but their play is disturbing. They are playing at plague. One child pretends to be sick, the others pretend to flee. This is how children process horror, through play, through mimicry, through trying to make sense of the incomprehensible. Food is becoming scarce. The farms are not being worked because farmers are dying. The merchants are not trading because traders are dying. Supply chains that took years to build are collapsing in weeks. Bread becomes expensive, then scarce, then non-existent. Hunger will become a secondary killer. Those who survive the plague will starve. The economy is collapsing. Workers are dying so quickly that there is no one to work. Crafts go unpracticed. Trades disappear. The social order is beginning to dissolve. The wealthy are not immune. Death takes the rich and poor with equal efficiency. A noble's title does not protect against plague. Money does not protect against plague. Prayer does not protect against plague. You encounter a physician. He is dressed in a long robe and a mask shaped like a bird's beak. This is the uniform of plague doctors. The mask is meant to filter the bad air. The long robe is meant to protect against miasma. None of this works. But the physician wears it nonetheless, trying to maintain the illusion of control, trying to maintain the illusion that he understands what is happening. He does not. No one does. The physician is visiting the sick, but he has almost nothing to offer. Bloodletting, draining blood in hopes of rebalancing the body's humors. Leeches, poultices of herbs, prayers. None of these things help. Most of his patients will die. The physician himself will probably die. Plague doctors die at terrifying rates because they move from infected house to infected house, spending time in close proximity to the dying. You move through the city. The population is visibly decreasing. Where there were crowds, there are now empty streets. Where there were markets bustling with activity, there are now shuttered stalls. The city is dying in real time. An old man sits on a doorstep. He's waiting to die. He has accepted it. His expression is one of exhaustion rather than fear. He has watched his family die, his wife, his children, his grandchildren. They are all gone. He is waiting for his turn. He will not have to wait long. The plague is indiscriminate. It kills the young and the old. It kills the strong and the weak. It kills those with vigor and those with frailty. There is no pattern. There is no logic. A person might be healthy one day and dead the next. The uncertainty is perhaps as terrifying as the plague itself. You do not know if you are infected. You will not know for days. By the time symptoms appear, you might have already infected dozens of others. You see a mother with a dead child. She is cradling the body. She has not yet let it go. The child is perhaps 5 years old, already cold, already beginning to decay. The mother's face is beyond emotion. She has passed through grief into some other state, a state of complete numbness. a state of acceptance that her child is gone and that she will soon follow. The city's religious institutions are overwhelmed. The priests are dying as fast as everyone else. The churches are packed with people desperately seeking intercession with God. Surely God will spare them. Surely God will save them. But God does not. The plague kills priests and faithful with equal indifference. Religious faith begins to shatter. If God will not protect his people, what is the point of faith? Some people turn to extreme measures, self-flagellation, believing that if they punish their own bodies severely enough, God will spare them from the plague. It does not work. The Flagellants die just as surely as everyone else. But they die convinced that their suffering was at least meaningful, that it was at least an offering to God. The government is beginning to fail. There are no officials to collect taxes, no officials to enforce laws, no officials to maintain order. In the absence of authority, some people begin to steal. They rob the dead. They rob the living. In the face of apocalypse, social order dissolves. The structure of civilization proves to be fragile, dependent on enough people being alive and functioning to maintain it. You encounter a group of flagellants moving through the street. They are whipping themselves, their backs bleeding. They chant prayers. They believe that their suffering will intercede with God, that their pain will somehow stop the plague. But the plague continues. The Auba, invisible bacterium, does not care about their prayers. The fleas do not care about their faith. Death continues, indifferent to human belief. As evening approaches, you realize you have been exposed. You have breathed the corrupted air. You have been in proximity to the sick. You have touched surfaces that infected people have touched. You might be carrying the plague already. The incubation period is perhaps 2 to 8 days. You will not know for several days whether you are infected. For several days, you will live with the knowledge that you might be dying. The afternoon brings more horror. You learn that entire families have died. A household of 12 people gone in 1 week. Some died in order. One would sicken, others would catch it from that person. Eventually, all would be dead. The last to die would die alone, surrounded by corpses in various stages of decomposition. The smell in plague houses must be indescribable. The smell of death accumulating. The smell of bodies leaking fluid. The smell of decay. And in the midst of this horror, the living, trying to care for the dying, but already sick themselves, already beginning to show symptoms, already dying. You pass a mass grave. Bodies are being dumped into a pit. Some are being thrown in with minimal ceremony. Some are partially burned to try to prevent contamination. But the bodies keep coming faster than the pit can hold them. Soon this pit will be full. Another pit will have to be dug, and another, and another. The realization begins to set in. This is not a crisis that will be resolved. This is not a plague that will burn itself out in weeks. This will continue for months. This will continue for years. The population of London will be cut in half. The population of Europe will be cut in half. The world will be fundamentally altered. You see a child playing with a doll. The doll is dirty, contaminated perhaps, with the bacteria of plague. But the child does not know this. The child is simply playing, trying to maintain normalcy in a world that has become completely abnormal. As night falls, you find yourself in a relatively empty section of the city. Entire neighborhoods have been abandoned. The living have fled, hoping to escape the plague. But the plague travels with them. It moves on trade routes. It spreads through merchant networks. It is impossible to escape. You hear crying in the darkness. A child, perhaps, or an adult who can no longer maintain composure. The sound is the sound of complete despair. The sound of someone who understands that they are going to die and that there is nothing they can do about it. The underlying truth of the Black Death is that it is fundamentally uncontrollable. It is caused by something invisible that no one understands. It spreads through mechanisms that are completely mysterious. It kills with terrifying efficiency. It is apocalyptic in scale. Entire cities will be emptied. Entire nations will be fundamentally altered. The social consequences will be enormous. Survivors will inherit a world where the old social order has collapsed, where land is worthless because there are not enough people to work it, where labor becomes valuable because there are so few workers left. The plague will ultimately lead to the end of feudalism, the end of the medieval social order, the beginning of the modern world. But in 1348, none of this is visible. What is visible is only horror, only death, only the complete dissolution of normal life. You return to your dwelling as the night deepens. You are tired. You are frightened. You are possibly infected. You will sleep tonight, not knowing if you will wake. If you wake, you will begin checking your body for symptoms, for swelling in the lymph nodes, for fever, for blackening of the skin. You understand finally that the Black Death is not something that can be fought. It is not something that can be negotiated with. It is not something that can be understood through prayer or medicine or science. It is something that simply happens. It spreads. It kills. It transforms the world. The day is over. But the plague continues. It will continue for years. It will kill millions. It will fundamentally alter human civilization. It will be remembered as one of the greatest catastrophes in human history. And you survive this night. But survival is uncertain. Tomorrow might bring fever. Tomorrow might bring swelling. Tomorrow might bring the realization that you are infected. Tomorrow might bring death. What would you do? Experience more historical moments through Past Eye POV. Subscribe and let us know in the comments.